And I'll say I love each story the same when I'm writing it. So it's not like, boy, I want to tell this story, even though I know it doesn't sell. Well, hey, then you're an artist and not a self-published independent author. Because as an independent author, you have to manage the business side as well.
Welcome to the Author Like a Boss podcast, the podcast for indie authors who want to improve their writing, up-level their marketing, make money with their books, and have fun doing it. Now, onto the show with your host, Ella Barnard.
Hello, bosses. Welcome to Author Like a Boss. And we are here today talking with Craig Martelle. He retired from the Marine Corps, spending time both as an enlisted and as an officer. Then he went to law school. He took his law degree and became a business diagnostic specialist and leadership coach. That's probably why he's so good at what he does. He's helping other people. He didn't like that because he was away from home way too much. So he retired at 52 to start writing full time, and he has not looked back since. He has a variety of stories now since he's been at this for a little while. Lots of short stories so you can see if you like his style. He has a number of best-selling novels in categories that matter to him: space opera, military, sci-fi, space marine. I'm going to ask about that. Colonization and genetic engineering. As a serial daydreamer, he says, it's nice to finally get stories on paper, virtual and digital paper, that is. And I personally want to add, he is the admin, or one of the admins of the really amazing Facebook group, 20 books to 50k. Indie authors, if you're not in that group, you need to get in there. I would say it is the best Facebook group for indie authors, and Craig is incredibly generous in sharing his tips in the group. I personally make sure to get notified anytime he posts anything because I'm like, I gotta read what he's saying because his information is always so valuable, and plus he's a good guy. So thank you so much, Craig, for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Al. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's just start. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your author journey?
I started reading very, very early in my life. There's about 8 years difference between me and my brother. As I was growing up, a child of the 60s. I am the boomer generation, for whatever that means. And what it means is there was a lot of paperbacks in our house because my brother liked science fiction, and so we had a lot of science fiction books. We lived a little bit away from where my friends were, so in the summer, I had a lot of time to myself, and I started reading early. J.R.R. Tolkien, Robert E. Howard, and the Daw, the two books, you flip them over, and then or two books for the price of one kind of thing. We had all of those in the house, so I read a lot of science fiction growing up. I loved it. I wrote my first story in 8th grade, a science fiction story that has since disappeared thanks to moving like 50 times between then and now.
I was really hoping that you'd be like, that has since become a USA Today bestseller and is now optioned for film.
It is... No, not that one, but I still remember the story very, very well because I hand wrote it. I hand wrote it on like 5 or 6 different notebooks. But I started early, then went to high school, went in the military, and whatever I'm doing, I try to focus on at the moment. So the military, that stretched out to last 20 years. I retired from the Marine Corps, and then, hey, what do I need to do? What do I want to do with my life? I worked for Department of Homeland Security for a few very miserable years, and then said, hey, I'm going to go to law school. I always wanted to go to law school. So I went to law school, got my law degree, and then, hey, now what are we going to do? Because I didn't really want to be a lawyer trapped behind a computer for 10 hours, 12 hours a day, researching and writing. So I went into business consulting, which is way cool. You get on the front lines. We get to tie the front lines to the bottom line, was that company's tagline. And it was really, that was very fulfilling, working with folks, helping improve processes. And I did that for 7.5 years, but I was gone from home over 50% of my life. And I didn't retire so I could do that. So I retired again, and this time at 52 years old, and came home. And I don't really need to work but I had to do something. I've got a little too much energy to sit here and do nothing and watch TV and eat bonbons all day, even though there's nothing wrong with bonbons. So I started writing, and I did that, converted over and said, I am going to write a book. Always wanted to write a book. I started that journey October 4th, 2015. 61 days later, I had 100,000 words in a story. And I sat on it for a month, wrote another book, a completely different genre. And then went back to the first book and said, oh, my God, look at this drivel. Oh, well, look at this. This is genius wording. Oh, my God, there's more drivel. And back and forth. I probably read that 100,000 words 20 times. And I jumped on keyboards and I tried to find an editor. No joy. Got belittled, got attacked because my cover was, I had done it myself. And it was bad because I couldn't find a cover artist. I checked DeviantArt and all those different, nobody would respond because I was a nobody. And I understand. And that's one of the driving factors for my administration on 20 books to 50K is helping those people who were in the same situation that I was 2.5 years ago. Helping them just, hey, that's because the self-promotion thread, hey, go find an editor. Here, you can look right here. Here, find a cover artist, whether pre-made or custom or whatever. I didn't even care what I had to pay. I just wanted to be able to do it. And I couldn't get that. The people I tried to contact and on previous sites, no joy. So anyway, it came. I finally just hit publish with that first book. And then I hit publish with the second book and the third book. And then I met Michael Anderle. And the first thing he said to me is, you're going to change your covers, right? So, but he said it in a way that was different than the people, other people who said, your covers suck. Well, thank you. That doesn't help me at all. I know they might not be optimal, but I don't know why. And Michael took the time to explain, here's what you need to do. Here's this. What have you done for research in your genre? Well, what's a genre? How about that for a question, huh? And then we move forward. And all of a sudden, now I'm studying what it means to self-publish. I'm learning the processes. I am practicing because this is what I do. So I sit here and I write. I spend 70 to 80 hours a week. I work every single day. Since I started writing on October 4th, let me bring up my spreadsheet. You don't get to see me looking at my spreadsheet.
You guys, this is how you know he's the real deal. He's got his spreadsheet easily accessible.
Yep. Oh, I have been writing 915 days straight. I'm averaging 2,657 words a day, every single day for 915 days. That comes out to almost 2.5 million words. So, but you look 2,600 words. Well, geez, if you're writing 1,300 words an hour, which is not excessive, that's 2 solid hours of writing a day. Can you do that every day? No. People who have full-time jobs that you come home, you're exhausted. I didn't write at all when I had a full-time job. So trying to compare, hey, Craig puts out at least a book a month. Why can't I? Well, you have a full-time job. You have young kids. Of course you can't. And that's okay. And if you can, that's up to you. And that's people need to work within themselves. But this is what I do. My wife works full-time as a professor. So when she leaves, this is what I do. And so I write. And I produce stories. Now, that's every day. If I edit, that's on top of doing these. But after this many words, you kind of get good at what you do. And my first draft really is not bad at all compared to my first draft 50 books ago.
50 books ago. I love that so much. So a couple of questions. How did you meet Michael Anderle?
I was there at the beginning, and this is just one of those pure dumb luck, gross, weird timing things. Mm-hmm. I was there at the beginning on keyboards when Michael was getting lambasted by people that said, no, you can't. It's you're making shit up. We don't believe you. Sorry, can you say sorry?
Yes,
I didn't
you
say
can.
the best word.
You're not the first, and so it's too late now. It's all it's explicit.
It's out there. It's 18 plus. So people were giving him a hard time. He's like, hey, I don't need this. I'm going to start a Facebook group, 20 books to 50K, based on the premise of if you write 20 books and each book makes $7.50 a day, in a year you'll have 50,000 in Cabo San Lucas. It costs $35,000 to live pretty well for a year. So that's it. 20 books, 750. Now, understanding that there's variations, and you don't write 20 books in a year. That's not what it's about. It's about the base premise of generating enough revenue to live comfortably. And his premise was Cabo San Lucas. Cut your overhead. You can either make more money or live in a cheaper place. So he looked at both, and that's the 20 books to 50K premise. So he started the Facebook group. I was one of the 50 first people that came over from K-Boards, and that's how I met him. And I was active on the group saying, hey, here's what I'm doing, and it's not working. Here's what I'm doing, and it is working. Here's this. Look at my revenue increase. Hey, it's amazing what happens when you release that third book in a series. Oh, how about that? My first 4 books were in 3 different genres, so don't do that. I would never tell people don't do that, because it's hard to find that readership and build your base.
So you just
that's how
you met him by spending time in communities online where other indie authors were spending time, and it just happened to be something.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
You're alone because you're at your computer. It's just you. If you don't find these groups, then you're still alone and looking for how do I do it. And you look for books online, and you have no idea if somebody who's selling a how-to book has any idea what they're doing, especially if they write under pen names. And that makes it extremely difficult because you can pull up a book like, hey, how do I become a self-published author? And you can find all kinds of books, and a lot of them you can't find any other books that this individual has written. So I didn't write. I actually wrote a book, how to become a successful indie author.
Yes.
And I put it under my name, the exact same name as if you go on Amazon on my author page, there's 7 pages of books that I've published. So, and I have a ranking at the bottom of my author page because I'm always within the top 100 of some various categories. So if you look that up, you'll say, okay, this guy may have an idea what he's talking about, as opposed to the other self-help books where you pull them up and there's nothing else for that individual. Mm-hmm. So that's that was the challenge I was up against. And the indie authors, everybody has tried something that you want to try. People have had success with it. People have not had success with it. So you can learn through them. And that's the definition of wisdom as opposed to experience. Experience means you did it yourself. Wisdom is you let somebody else take those lumps and then you learned from them.
I am a huge advocate of not reinventing the wheel. I'll be willing to try different things, but I'd rather be wise than experienced. And
then when you have both, that's people ask you to come on their show.
Yeah, then your name is Craig Martelle.
No, and trust me, I've made almost all the mistakes, almost all of them, but I haven't gotten kicked off Amazon for thank God.
I think
for violating terms of service. You just really you have to be careful around those specifically.
Yeah. I want to point out what you said. In my good friend Megan and business partner, she came up with a quote that says, "Self-publishing doesn't have to mean all by myself publishing."
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, it's so true, because it is a very lonely when you're just sitting at your computer all the time, but it doesn't have to be. And I think, especially in the 20 books to 50K, there's an amazing community of people who are willing to help each other. And it makes a big difference. I wanted to ask you about, so you have a spreadsheet with your writing words on it. Is that something that you recommend to people to record how many words that they're putting out every day, and why, if so?
Keep in mind what I did right before I became a full-time author. I was a business diagnostics specialist. I'm also a process improvement specialist. That's what I did in Fortune 500 companies. Without data, you can't make good business decisions. So to expedite and help me as I do things, to include ads and stuff like that, then I need to have all the data in one place. So my spreadsheet has probably 20 tabs. I have the first one is book tracking, and that has my latest book is rows. I use 5 rows for each book, and my latest book is 452. That's the row number. So I track those. I track my short stories. I track everything that I'm in. The words, I have a word per day count. I have an output tab, which that includes all of my books. It's total purchases and free and sales, KENP value, buy through rate, which is calculated off the raw data that you get from Amazon. So I download their spreadsheet once a week, and then it gives me my calculations. Here's what my total gross sales are. Here's what my book returned rate is, and things like that. So I can see and make business decisions based on my books. I have some that have a read-through rate of 90+%. Way cool. And I have some that are 70. One is 72% to book 3 and 71% to book 4.
Wow.
So from a business perspective, I've heard that anything over 50% is good. I actually don't like that. I like north of 80%. So 70%, it makes me begs the question, what am I doing wrong that only 3 out of 4 are continuing on after each book? And that tapers off pretty fast after that. And that's looking at, we haven't run a great deal of promotions on book 1. So there's something going on, and that's where I need to run a survey. And actually, in my next newsletter, I am going to run a survey and saying, hey, on these series, what do you think of XXX, whatever it is? Mm-hmm. So and that's the data. You can make a business decision. Do I keep going with this series? Because my time is valuable. Every author's time is valuable, especially if you're writing stories that people aren't reading. And that's you need to write ones that are going to sell. And I'll say I love each story the same when I'm writing it. So it's not like, boy, I want to tell this story even though I know it doesn't sell. Well, hey, then you're an artist and not a self-published independent author. Because as an independent author, you have to manage the business side as well. So love every story the same and tell the ones that the people are buying.
Important. That's what I was going to ask, because you're saying business decision. I think for a lot of new authors or writers, let's say, and I'm going to say this over and over. I've said this in other interviews and I keep saying it, is as soon as you sell your first book, you become an entrepreneur.
Yes, you're a professional author at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once you throw that book out there, your baby is now a product. So you have to get, and it's okay to be an author and love your baby, but you have to be able to take that hat off and put on a second hat that says, I'm the business dude. And then you have to do the business stuff. If you're writing only 2 books a year or even 1 book a year, you want to make that the book that's going to make it viable for you to write a book next year too. You don't want to spend a year writing a book and then it sells 4 copies and 3 of those are to your dad. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's nice, but at that point, it's a hobby and not a profession. And if you want to deduct your expenses, well, you need to make money. 2 years out of 5 in the U.S. That's the standard right now.
You guys, so, I was just looking at the 20 books to 50K. They actually have live events, and one of the breakout sessions is the legal stuff. So we're not going to deep dive into that here, even though I know a lot of people are like, what?
Well, and the legal session is not going to be live streamed.
Yeah.
So the only people who are going to get that are the people who are there. And that's also it's because we want people to be candid in their questions. And if you have a tough question that you want to ask, but you're being videoed, you're not going to ask that question.
Yeah. So definitely check that out. After this interview, if you're like, man, Craig is the bomb, like, which you will, if you aren't already. I wanted to ask you, how does this shape your writing? Like, can you give an example of these business decisions shaping? I know you're saying you're going to write what people are reading. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I have enough series that my data is pretty solid. I have a lot of data. I call my flagship series my Free Trader series, for example. Well, when I started writing last year, December of 2016, I started co-authoring with Michael Anderle in his universe, the Cortharian Gambit universe, which that one had the potential to be very lucrative just because of his readership, a voracious readership. But Free Trader, I had already bought the covers for 7 through 9. I had published 1 through 6. And I promised my readers, hey, in 2017, I'm going to publish these last 3 books, Free Trader 7, 8, and 9. And I started publishing the Terry Henry Walton Chronicles with Michael, book 1. Within 1 month, it sold as many copies and made as much money as the entirety of my Free Trader series for the year that had been published. So I'm like, oh my God, 1 book equals 6 books. 1 book in a month equals 6 books in a year. So we went on to 2, then 3, then 4, and blew the oars out of the water with how well that series was doing. So we kept going and kept writing in that universe. And Free Trader 7, 8, and 9, which I promised to my readers in 2017, got kicked down the road just because Terry Henry Walton Chronicles was so lucrative. And in that first year, it made over $250,000 for that series. So a series that now I rebranded Free Trader since then, rebranded it into YA, young adult, because of a lot of the reviews that I was getting. So since then, now Free Trader has been doing very, very well because I've improved my ads, and some of the Cortharian Gambit readers have gone over and read the Free Trader series as well. But I failed on my promise to my readers to get them those last 3 books in 2017. So I said, in 2018, I will do them. So I did Bad Company 3. I wrote that. And then I immediately wrote Free Trader 7 because I said, I promised my fans. Even though it, right now, Free Trader 7, where are you? Once again, I've got all my data. Free Trader 7 has only made a couple $1,000s, which when you're first starting out, it's like, oh my God, a couple thousand. It took me 4 months to make a couple $1,000s total. Yeah. When I first started publishing, I had 4 books and I still hadn't made a couple thousand. Here's 1 book 3 weeks after publishing, and I'm like lamenting, oh, it only made a couple $1,000s. I mean, if I sound like a wiener, for Pete's sake. So, but that's from a business perspective. I can publish Bad Company 3 and it will make 10 times that. Mm-hmm. So, but I promise I'm at that point in my career that I promise my fans and I will deliver. So I'm writing Bad Company 4 now, but immediately following that, I'm going to do Free Trader 8. And then it will end. I told people it'll end the series at Free Trader 9. So I have those covers. I just need to write those stories. And I have a good outline for Free Trader 8. And that's my new method because I don't have time to pants it anymore. I have to get everything done. I have some 110,000 words I need to write between now and May 15th.
Wow. So
I have 5 weeks. And not just write, get edited, and publish. That's 3 different books. So just to meet my commitments. Now, the good thing is, you look at 5 weeks and really 4 weeks of writing time, 110,000 words. It's only 5,000 words a day or 4,000 words a day. It's really not overwhelming. As long as you go at it every day, you produce every single day and keep marching forward. So it's not, it may look at it, hey, I got to publish 3 books by May 15th. Oh my God, that's overwhelming. No, it's not. It really is not. Because once again, at 2.5 million words published already, I know what my capabilities are. I know what I'm going to hand my editor, that it's going to be really not bad. And I have the best beta readers in the world, and they've already read through the first 30,000 words of Bad Company 4, and they've given it the big thumbs up, saying, "Hey, that's right on. When's the action going to start?" Okay, it's starting as soon as the first word after the part that you read. So,
okay. What? So you're talking about your super fans, like your readers, and I really appreciate integrity. So I love that you're like, hey, I said I would. I didn't do it when I did, but I'm going to make good on this. How did you find these super fans? Like, how did you develop this relationship with your super fans and your readers? And how do you interact? Like, how is this communication happening?
This is the power of social media. You turn your fans through your back matter, the links in the back of your book, to, hey, check out my Facebook page, check out this, link with me on my author page, follow me there. And you'll get the news of what's coming up. You'll get some snippets. You'll get some pictures of Phyllis the Arctic dog, all that stuff you absolutely have to see. So once you start interacting with them there, they come over. They don't come over there unless they liked your book or something. And there, hey, you see them, and then you ask questions. Hey, I need a name for this guy. I need this. And the fans will rise to the occasion. Even if you only have 3, somebody will give you a name. Someone will give you a location. Hey, describe a bar that I can put in this scene. And then you put it in there. And I used to do author notes in the traditional publishing style, where it was, Craig started writing in October of 2015. I mean, it was so dry and boring. It was, yeah. And not just that. My prelude, once again, traditional publishing style, because I didn't know any different when I first started, I put that right up front. Hey, I'd like to thank the world for turning on its axis and giving us day and night. And oh my God, it's amazing anybody read anything. So I moved all that stuff to the back. The title and the copyright page, maybe a list of characters, because as you get on with a series, especially when you're 16 books into a series like I am with the current one, you need to have those characters. Here's when they were born. Here's who they're married to. Here's their kids, because the series follows that, and so that's up front now. But then it goes right into the book. I don't do a prologue, because I personally don't like reading them, so I'm not going to do that to my readers. Here, start chapter 1. Here you go. Mm-hmm. So I changed that, and I made it author notes, which this is a Michael Anderle learned thing, because that's how he connects with his readers. Nobody connects better than he does with his readers. So it's author's notes. Hey, thanks for reading this far. And, oh, by the way, I named this bar after this fan who offered this name and this description. You'll see it's exactly as she worded it when I asked. And this character is named after this guy who said, use my name and kill me gloriously. So you put that in there, and then you develop that connection. And everybody's looking now to, hey, how do I get in the author notes? I'm mentioned. And having beta readers. Hey, thanks for reading it ahead of time, giving us feedback. And I have a list of 10, 20 names of people who have been able to read the book and find some typos and things, because I like making sure that the book is as good as possible when it hits the street. So there you go. You develop that relationship. So cart before the horse. There's a lot of new authors. Hey, I write one book a year. My first one's coming out in 6 months. How do I develop this relationship with the readers? And that's where sites like Smashwords or even your own website, you write half of a chapter and you ask for feedback. Hey guys, what do you think of this? And you bring them over one at a time. And if you're having really big problems getting people to look at your stuff, it might be because of your stuff. And that some people have a hard time accepting that maybe their baby is ugly. But that's where that continuous improvement mindset. Boy, my first book, when I published it, I hated getting the feedback saying, oh my God, this is unreadable. Look at these typos. Oh, the sentences are too short. Oh my God, you suck. Oh my God, I suck. I'm sitting here behind my computer. It's just me, and they're telling me I suck. You know what you do? Everybody sucks. If you're looking at the wrong reader, or if you haven't done the right things to bring that reader on board. And in my case, I never had a professional editor. I tried and I couldn't find one. But then since that book I unpublished that book and republished it, and actually a traditional publisher bought it. That's the End Times Alaska series. So it went from you suck to a bestseller, a best-selling series, because I had the wrong title, I had a bad cover, and I didn't have it edited. So I had I found sentences that were half finished. This is after reading it like 20 times. I'm like, how in the hell could I miss this? But it got professionally edited. We changed the titles. We changed the covers. And they sent it to the exact specific list, which I was trying to market it to. I don't even know who the hell I was trying to market it to, because I didn't really understand the genre alignment thing. And they targeted it exactly to post-apocalyptic survivalist readers. And guess who bought it and liked it? Post-apocalyptic apocalyptic survivalist readers. So when you align genres, you'll see me on 20 Books. I'm fanatical about make sure I'm not going to share your urban fantasy book because that's not my readers, but I will share your post-apocalyptic. I will share your science fiction space opera because I love space opera. And all of my series eventually become space opera because I love space opera.
which explains why Rick Partlow, another one of my interviewees, you guys check it out. It's one of the people who referred me to you because he also, there's a whole little enclave of former military space opera authors. And their stuff, they're so good and they're such great guys. So definitely check all of them out. Can you talk a little bit more about genre alignment and how people are doing it right and how to do it wrong?
I'm a member of SFWA, Fiction Fantasy Writers of America. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that there's some crossover, but many fantasy readers don't read science fiction, and many science fiction readers don't read fantasy. Now, I like J.R.R. Tolkien, but I generally don't like fantasy like Rick Riordan, Wheel of Time, or Terry Brooks and the Shannara Chronicles. I just don't like those, and that's me. Those are huge selling, and everybody would be blessed to have such a series in their portfolio. But it's just not me. My fans are the ones who liked the original Star Trek, the original series, because that was more space opera-y than other things like Firefly, which is the best series ever on television, but stupid dumbasses canceled it because
so
they're dumbasses.
So sad.
Dumb asses.
That is still one of the series that's like in my mind. I'm like, man, I wonder what's going on with River. Like, I just am still like, man, like I really want to know what happened, and I'm never gonna know.
No, never. no, because they're all old now. So
yeah, I know they can't come back. They're not even. Nope. I know it's so terrible.
There is no coming.
There was
back.
no Netflix back then. If there'd been Netflix, they would have taken it like they took. What's the one with the guy in Wyoming?
Say it. Say it.
I can't remember the name. What's the name?
But that's it.
You know what I mean. They would have taken it. They would have taken it and kept going. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yep. But that's we have a series called Dark Landing that Scott Moon and I are writing, and that one we're targeting very specifically Firefly readers, the frontier kind of sheriff who has a modern day blaster kind of thing with aliens. So that because there's that void, the readership is looking for that kind of thing, and that series is doing pretty well. I wish it was doing better, but it's doing pretty well. It fills that gap. So that's the genre alignment. If you want to do something specific, make sure you know where you're going. Many people write multiple genres. Michael Anderle, his the Kurtherian Gambit series crosses those genres because it's got a vampire in it, but it's really not about vampires. It's got werewolves in it, but it's not about werewolves. It's got people doing great things in it, but it's not about superheroes. It's one of those series that truly cross boundaries. And what it has is a happy story where you've got a person who goes and kicks bad people's asses, and you end on a high note. Every single book, he's got 21 books, so the whole series is finished now for the Kurtherian Gambit, and every book ends on a high note. The readers go away happy. I read an interview with Dwayne The Rock Johnson yesterday, and that's what he said. He said every one of his stories that he's in in a movie has to end on a high note, because the most recent one, Rampage, it wasn't. George died in the original script, and he said, I can't be a part of this movie if George is going to die, because I like George. He's the hero, and we're going to keep George alive, or I'm walking. And at $22 million is what he got paid for that movie. Him walking, he was making a statement that I don't care about the money. I care about my brand says I must. So you look at Michael Anderle's stories, and that's why he can touch these genres, because the story itself supersedes any kind of genre specifics. Now, that being said, if you can own the readership within a genre, like vampires and werewolves, which that's one of his, even though it's not urban fantasy because there's no real magic. It's science. Then you bring those along for a ride, and then they expand. They sell it to their friends. Hey, I know you don't like Buffy, but you should read this. So you've got to start with that core readership. And for me, it's my space opera. For Terry Henry Walton Chronicles, it was the post-apocalyptic readers from End Times Alaska who came over and started and said, hey, I like this stuff. Oh, my God, this Michael Anderle guy. Holy shit, I love this stuff. And we have readers who have been with us for 150 books or so. I'm not sure how many we have out now. Or Michael has out. I have,
a lot.
20 some. a lot. Yes.
So you guys, for everybody's listening, Michael Anderle can branch out like that because he is, and I don't mean I mean, he is the number one indie. I was looking at some statistics about last year, and it's like him and Bella Forrest.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bella Forrest is very prolific, and he, she, they, it. The Bella Forrest brand. I have no idea who that person or individual is.
I know.
They don't have time to go anywhere or do anything because they're writing books. They're very, very good books. K.F. Breen is another individual who writes great books with a certain velocity. And it's the great books part that brings the readers along for that next ride. James Patterson, you look at his books, the ones that have only his name on it, those books are massive, massive sellers as soon as they come out. The ones with other people's names, even though it's in real small print at the bottom, still don't sell. They sell very well, but not as well as the James Patterson specific books. And because if you buy a James Patterson book, you're expecting a certain thing. And a lot of his co-authors and some of the other books didn't deliver on that. So that's one thing. I mean, we're trying as hard as humanly possible to continue delivering to the quality and the story that Michael's readers want. And they want that happy uplifting with some serious kick-ass. But at the end, you feel good about the book. And you're like, hey, I want to know what happens with River. Even though they won this fight, what happens with her going forward? And that's what Michael gets. He's fomented that. Now, in my last book, I actually killed off one of the people call him a main character, but I have to admit that while I was writing that series, I would forget about this guy. And I would go a whole book and not mention him at all. And I would have to go back and write him into a couple scenes because I forgot about him. And some of the readers said, you killed off one of my favorite characters. I'm like, holy shit, I don't even know this guy, and you're telling me he's one of your favorite characters. So so I'm a serious challenge in the current book is that I get that uplifting again because I killed him kind of towards the end of the book. So I left people a little bit bummed, but on a high note, a pseudo high note. I hate to say it this way, but I should have killed him earlier in the book.
So you'd have more time to bring people back up.
That's right. That's right. Because that is the golden story arc.
I think
you have to end people on a high note.
Yeah. I love one personally. I love that you're doing that because I think there's a lot of at least TV shows and things that are really, really dark. And my qualification personally for reading, and I read more than I watch TV or movies anymore.
Good for you. Good for you.
But because I get to choose, because there's more of them, and I like to end on a high note. So personally, thank you. So I'm like, I want to walk away feeling better than I did when I started. That's I'm like, if I feel worse, there's no point in me doing it because I only have so much time.
There is a certain readership that appeals to them, but it's not the majority. I believe.
I agree with you.
Can't look at data and say that, hey, 84% of all readers like a happy ending. I can't point to that. I would expect if somebody was able to do a real survey and collect, they would find that people read books to escape. And when you escape, you want to be happy. You want the hobbits to walk away with the ring and the dragon dead at the end.
Yeah.
So
I think you could safely say that if you even just look at the popularity of romance.
Oh yeah, and HEA. Yeah,
Yes.
try writing a romance novel without an HEA.
Nope,
See how well
nope.
it does.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
HEA,
wanted
happily
ever after, you guys, for those not in the lingo.
Not into romance, which I'm not. I have never read a romance book, and I'm not sure I ever will. And nothing against those readers. It's 65% of the market, for Pete's sake. So if you like romance, hey, it's a good place to dip your toes. Now understand that the competition is quite fierce because it's 65% of the market.
Mm-hmm.
Space opera, man, how can you beat space opera? It don't get no better than
that. Since I've been interviewing folks like you and Drew Avra, I need to reach into space opera. I'm like, I love how you guys talk about it. And so I'm like, this is something I need to branch into because I'm a fantasy reader, right? And so I didn't read sci-fi, but now I'm like, oh, one, I'm not into like, tell me you have some strong women characters in there. Because when I was growing up, sci-fi did not have as many of those.
I always do.
Okay.
I always do. When I started writing the series with Michael, he gave me his character. He's like, I've got this character. The fans want to know more, and I don't have any bandwidth to write this. So Terry Henry Walton, which of course that violates my main premise of naming characters. I only use one name because it's just easier to remember and easier to type. I don't have to remember 3 names. Mm-hmm. So he gives me a character with 3 names. Here you go. And started writing the first book, and I'm like, I'm not sure this is working. So we had to add in a pseudo love interest who became his partner and equal partner. So and she was the werewolf. So she was arguably a stronger fighter. She could touch the etheric, a kind of like a mystical way to see the world, and he couldn't. So she had these abilities, he didn't. So they developed this partnership, and then they became the couple. So that went forward. My Free Trader series, same thing.
Which book? Which series is that?
That's the Terry Henry Walton Chronicles.
Okay. Yeah, because you're like, people who like the original Star Trek, and I'm like, I like the original Star Trek, except for the like, is she even wearing pants? Does she have pants on?
Oh jeez. Oh yeah. But you have to look at it through the lens of the time and what Gene Roddenberry was able to do with the studios. It was.
Listen, I look at the lens of the time. It was amazing.
Yes,
but it was amazing what they were able to. I am a Star Trek fan, but as a woman, I'm like, they probably could have given her some pants though. Or at least a skirt that covered her bum. Some of them,
something. Yeah. Oh my God.
So, what to dive back into? I'm sorry, you guys, about these tangents. What has been the most effective marketing tool that you have used?
For me personally, it has been publishing the next book. And I'll tell, when you publish quickly, nothing sells the last book like the next book. When Free Trader 7 came out, and this is 1.5 years after Free Trader 6 came out, the entire series sold magnificently. It all picked up, and it's great. And since and I originally published them at $2.99, the magic lowest price you could put, and still get the 70% from Amazon. I had it on Kindle Unlimited. And since then, I have raised the price. They're now $4.99. And not because I'm trying to milk the money, but because the value of the books. As a new author, you don't have any perceived value, but as an author with 7 pages of books on Amazon, there's a perceived value, and you can put these books up. And so my Free Trader series now are $4.99 each, $3.99 for the first book, because of once again the business perspective, and also because I'm spending more on marketing. Back then, I spent almost nothing on marketing. It was all about, hey, getting that next book out. And so you can have 1,000 dedicated readers. And I remember talking to Michael back at the beginning of 2016, and we were talking about readership. And I said, what do you have, 100,000 readers? And he laughed. He's like, no, I have like 10,000 readers. That's it. 10,000 hardcore readers who will buy my next book. I know that. And I'm like, oh man, can you imagine what it'd be like if you have 100,000 readers? And we're still working towards that. We don't have a solid core of 100,000 readers yet. And looking at 1 billion readers of English in the world, we're tapping such a small part of the market. And now looking at you'd think romance at 65% would be the market. No, I'm telling you, it's space opera.
It's actually, for all those folks who are brand new, it's actually much easier to win a smaller market. And by smaller, you mean like smaller, you're like 100,000. There's millions of people, I'm sure, reading space opera, and you only need to get. This is the thing that I, for people who are just starting out, and I'd like to reinforce and like educate on. There are so many people buying books.
Yes. And with the availability now, because on a Kindle that you carry with you, or I have a 6-inch iPhone. I have the big iPhone because I read mostly on my phone. I have a Kindle. I brought a Kindle Fire, the color one, because it did other things. But you know what? I don't like that. I like the Kindle Paperwhite. I have one of those because it's so much easier to read. You can read in the sunlight. It looks like a book. And you can have hundreds and thousands of books on there, and it's way, way cool. Welcome to the 21st century. Mm-hmm. So getting your book in front of people is easier and also harder, just because it's a big, big pond, and you're trying to get those nibbles from the readers out there. But once you get them, and that's why it's important to tell a story that grips people, because you can't beat word of mouth. People saying, hey, you know what? I read this book and oh my God, it blew my mind. That's what you want. You want them posting on Facebook. You want them posting on Twitter saying, hey, I love this book. Because people that engaged, that's how J.K. Rowling made $1 billion in book sales alone. And she doesn't think she's at the top either, because I saw an ad for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, for Pete's sake, like 6 months ago. Hey, buy this book. What, to add to my other 7 copies of that book that I have? Come on. So they're out there. You have to reach them, and that takes marketing. And marketing is not overwhelming. You can learn it one step at a time. But that's where patience comes in. You don't have to know it. If you're publishing your first book in 6 months, you don't have to know all of it when you hit publish. You don't have to actually know anything besides that your cover is mostly aligned with your main genre, that your blurb looks like a blurb and not a synopsis. Hey, and then Billy went to go meet Sally. No, stop that crap. Why did this meeting happen? What meeting? What? Hey, ad copy versus synopsis. That's so important. Mm-hmm. An illicit meeting on a darkened hill. Okay. Whereas opposed to, hey, Billy went to meet Sally in the dead of night so they could kiss. I market to the older crowd, so you have to temper things a bit.
I like to tell people that anything that isn't the story, and even the story, it looks like to some extent that you're like looking at what people want to buy, but absolutely everything that isn't your story is marketing.
Yes.
The cover, the blurb, and
that's social media, engaging, like, hey, here's a picture of my house with 5 feet of snow on the ground, and there's Phyllis, my dog. I do a lot of that because, hey, I like showing off Phyllis, our pit bull, and also to connect, because I am a real person. I'm not some mystical entity like Castle from the TV series who shows up and, hey, everybody shows up in a Ferrari and everybody goes, ooh, ah, and there's big posters of me. And no, I show up in jeans.
Maybe with pants on, maybe not.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Hey, I'm him. What? No. He's taller. What? No. It's really me. I mean, if you have to argue about somebody that I'm me, then that's the reality check that everybody needs. No. I'm really him.
Yeah. I no, it's me, Craig. But there's still, and I think it's okay to own it, there is still some like special readers and fans are like, no, it's Craig. Like, you have this as an author, you have this presence kind of as somebody who's, and for me, I say own it, you guys, because own it, because you have taken something from your mind. It was just in your mind. Didn't exist before you did it. And then you put it out into words and then you shared it. And now we all get to experience what you had in your imagination, which is the whole thing is magical to me. But
it is. And if you're more than 1 out of 1,000 who said, I want to write a book, and you actually did. So if you did, that makes you different than 99.9% of every other person out there, because you took that, you put it out there, and actually you kind of bared your soul. There's very, very few authors who can write a book that has nothing to do with anything about themselves. You have to make sure that when you write a book, it's you. You're digging it out of your head. It's there. Even if it's a dark fantasy or, heaven forbid, erotica, it's there. And you've shared it. Now people get to look at that part of you. Even if you say, hey, no, that's not really me. It is.
It is. And it's okay to let people be fans of that. And
it is, yes.
And use that in your marketing. Not use it, but utilize it.
I throw in fan quotes. Hey, do you mind if I quote you on that? That's great, man. Oh, I can't believe that. Those are better words than I deserve. And I've said that, and I really mean that. That's not just a phraseology that I throw out there, because some fans are like, oh man, the best author I've read since Andre Norton. Oh my God, are you kidding? Wow. This is me. I'm sitting up here in basketball pants in the 5 feet of snow. I pick up dog poop every morning. Come on. So, but no, they say, hey, do you mind if I quote you on that? Hey, no problem. And usually they won't have any problem at all, because it's like you don't throw a name on it. Just say, hey, quote, which means somebody actually said that, not me. So use that, but use that in a way that's nice. It's complimentary.
Yeah. I think the people, if you recognize, it's powerful to recognize that we're all people. All the authors are just folks. All the readers are also folks. They are more than their pocketbooks. And if you can build relationships, for me, I think what is unsaid, what you haven't said straight out, but which is very obvious, is that you have a relationship with your fans, that you spend time building. Which I think is really, really, really important to note.
I think it's important to note too that the very best book that I've ever written, which was pseudo autobiographical, People Raged and the Sky Was on Fire. I'm looking at my spreadsheet, and I've sold 62 total copies of that.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, this is me. I actually was looking at a co-authoring contract with somebody, and I said, "Hey, here's this," and he said, "When's the last time one of your books didn't make $6,000?" Well, I'm looking at it right here. It made $140 total dollars, which didn't even pay for the revised, less expensive cover that I got on it. So yeah, 60, and it's because it's a thriller, and I write science fiction, either post-apocalyptic or space opera, because there's nothing better than space opera, clearly. And because the Dark Landing from the space opera, once again, that is a different book, but it's I think the best, because it's the most complex book that I've written in Tom Clancy style, where you've got 3 different events ongoing at the same time, and they're meandering, but they're also intertwined to culminate at the explosive ending, where the good guy does win and the bad guy does lose. So I mean, I really like that book. I spent an incredible amount of time with Cat Lind on the phone, going through it line by line. Imagine that as an editor, going through line by line and taking a paragraph apart and putting it back together. So that probably is the best face I can put on. But once again, 62, and that's not 62 real sales. That's 25 book sales. 37 KENP book reads. So I actually sold 25 copies of that one book. It's almost embarrassing, but it's not, because it's a good book. I have a book that's not a good book, and it has the worst cover ever. I did it in PowerPoint myself, called Wisdom's Journey. I have sold 9 copies of that total. And I leave it up because Michael Anderle said, dude, you have got to change that cover. It's about your brand. Yes. My brand is, I'm humble enough to leave a book out there that 9 copies I sold of it. Leave a short story out there that I wrote that says, hey, if I can put this out there, you can put this out there too. And what you'll find is somebody will look at it and even make some constructive criticism, saying, hey, I like this. What about this character? If this character did this, or this might be an issue. And you get better. I read reviews. A lot of people don't read reviews because it kind of crushes their soul. But I look at it from a business diagnostics perspective. I take that hat off and put on the business hat and say, hey, if enough readers are recognizing this as an issue, and it's never typos or anything like that, my books are better than that, because I have editors and proofreaders, and they help keep me above board. But if there's an issue with the book, if there's a plot issue or something, and I ran one book, Terry Henry Walton Chronicles #7. I was wondering about it because I used a different style, and I ran it past the beta readers, and they unanimously gave it a thumbs down. They're like, dude, this book, it's not working. Oh my God. And so I took 2 days, 22 hours. I sat in the chair and I completely rewrote that book. But the end result, it still didn't resonate as well with the readers, but it was much, much better than what I had initially submitted to the beta readers, to my test readers, because I trust them. I trusted their opinion from a reader's perspective. And that's when you're asking people to give you some help, understand that writers look at books a little bit differently than readers. The people you want to appeal to are the readers. So if you can get readers to check out your book, check out even a snippet, a chapter of your story, and there's only 3 levels. It's thumbs up, God, I can't wait to read the next one. It's thumbs down, I don't care at all, I'm not going to keep reading. And it's, if it was like this, I might read it. I might read more. So it's a binary system. Either they want to keep reading or they don't. And as long as they want to keep reading, keep writing it that way. Keep writing it that style. Keep that story going with that character, doing those kinds of things. And it doesn't have to be boring. I mean, 2.5 million words, and there's still so much out there that I can write about that's different. It's not recycled, rewash, and redo. And my readers challenge me on that. Like, hey, look at this. Oh, and I'll lose a reader every now and then. Hey, this looks like more of the same from Terry Henry's 6. We're 10 books later. Come on, guy. And all right, I understand. Because the readers, they're the ones who are buying your books. Your other writers are not. So make sure you're addressing your audience appropriately.
And that's what I want to ask you. What if you had one piece of advice to give other authors who want to be successful, what would you say?
Write every single day. You can't run a marathon by thinking about running a marathon. You can only run a marathon by getting out there and running until you can run 26.2 miles. You can't write a book. If you're thinking about writing a book, or if you dabble, you write the book. And then you know what? You write another book, because very, 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 very few people write that magnum opus on their first try. I have not yet. I do not have what I call a breakout title. Sure, I have some bestsellers. I have some pretty big sellers, but I don't have a runaway bestseller. That one where it sold 200,000 copies or 1 million copies. Heaven forbid. That number is just even to me. I mean, I make really, really good money at this, and even to me, 1 million book seller is just beyond comprehension. Because I'm looking at my numbers now, and it's millions way off. Now 1 million page reads, no problem. I've had up to 5 million page reads in a month. I've sold. I think my biggest month for selling book numbers was 15,000 books in a month. Now, hey, that's a pretty big number, but that's 1 month. Next month, okay, down to 5,000. Because I had 2 releases in a major series in Terry Henry Walton in 1 month, and it really resonated well. It hit the market at the right time, and people were hungry and said, "Oh my God, I got to buy this," for some ungodly reason, and they did. And we sold a lot of books, but that runaway bestseller, I don't have that yet. And because I don't think I've written the perfect book yet. Besides the People Rage book that sold 62 copies. That's the perfect book, and it's 62 copies. So my perception of a perfect book and the reader's perception of a perfect book are far different. So readers are the ones you want to appeal to, especially if you put it out for sale. Some people say, hey, I just want to publish this book. I need to tell this story. That's okay. And what we see on 20 books, we'll see some people pop up with that. And it's like, well, now what's your marketing plan? Well, I don't care about that. I'm trying to, okay, great. But this group is about selling, because once you put it out there, it's now up for sale. Do you want to sell more copies of it? If you don't, then don't ask these questions. Like, why is my book not selling, but I'm not going to market it? You might have issues then.
Yes. Yeah. I one of the things that I ask people is, what's your intention? If your intention is to write a book that's like your artistic, I've always wanted to write this, and that's fine. But if if your intention is to write the book that's always been in there and you want to share it with just your close friends and family or whoever, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to write and make money and have an author, success, that's a different intention, and so different actions have to be taken.
That's completely different. And that's once you publish on Amazon, now you're a professional author. You might as well take that extra step and try to sell it.
Yeah. Can you tell people about whatever your latest book is? We've gone through a lot, and I need to go check out some space opera now. I've been interviewing a few space opera authors. I think you might be gaining fans just through your absolute confidence that space opera is the best genre. And I'm like, oh, is it? I need to find out.
Yeah, it's clearly. And actually, if you're a fan of Firefly, I would recommend our Dark Landing series with Scott Moon, a fabulous writer and a police officer as well. So as retired military, teamed up with a police officer to write space opera inspired by Firefly and Bonanza. Man, it absolutely doesn't get any better than that. I can't believe you haven't already purchased the first 7 books in that series, which are available now. And we publish a new book every 18 days.
Whoa.
Dark Landing, one word.
Whoa. Okay.
And actually, I'm not working on that right now. I'm working on Bad Company 4, which is the follow-on to the Terry Henry Walton Chronicles, because, of course, like all my series, they went to space, and it became a space opera. Starting with a heavy military sci-fi, The Bad Company is the first book in that series, and that one, a lot of combat action, but still the characters, trying to bring those characters to life and their interactions. And then Blockade was... It was interesting. We were looking at the numbers, and Blockade sold 40% more copies than Bad Company, book 1.
Why do you think so?
A really weird dynamic, and Michael and I haven't been able to figure out why. That it sold so many more. Bad Company has some 80, 85 reviews. It sold very well. But Blockade, book 2 in the series, has 122 reviews. It is much, much better reviewed. And then book 3, because once again I killed one of the characters, that has about 65 reviews. And that's another thing on reviews. Once you have enough books, you'll see that, hey, people didn't like it, even though it's got 4.8 stars or something like that. Your hardcore fans are leaving their reviews, but the other fans aren't taking that extra step. So Blockade as a book really resonated well with the fans, and they took that extra step to leave a review. So gross numbers, I look at those compared to the other books in the series and see which books. Book 10 in Terry Henry Walton Chronicles, 130, 140 reviews. It has almost as many reviews as book 1. A fabulous testament, because people said, hey, I didn't leave a review on any of the other ones, but I had to leave a review on this book. So we know we hit a home run with book 10, the closeout book in that series. But we didn't close it out because they went to space. Because
space opera.
Because that's every series becomes a space opera. That's like, just push it far enough in the future, damn it.
Where can people find you? Where's the best place for people to find you besides the 20 books to 50k Facebook group, you guys?
I think you should read my Become a Successful Indie Author self-publishing nonfiction book. No, I that book actually sold better than I thought. I was surprised, but Find me on craigmartelle.com, CraigMartelle.com, or on Facebook. Amazon is probably the absolute best place. Almost all of my books, I actually have one book wide, which means it is available in all retailers, iBooks, Apple, as well as Nook and Kobo. And the reason I did that is for a story bundle for SIFWA, and it's the free trader. Mm-hmm. I know you're not going to be surprised by this, but there's a follow-on series called Cygnus Space Opera, because I didn't want anybody to be confused what the follow-on series was. And so I took that first book wide to be in the SIFWA story bundle, the Science Fiction Fantasy Writers of America, a very specific science fiction story bundle. Mm-hmm. And while it was out there, I thought, hey, let me take a shot at BookBub, who has I have not had any luck getting a BookBub featured deal until that book. Once it was wide. So 68 negative replies, and lucky number 69 got my BookBub feature deal. So you'll see that April 22nd if you're an international customer. Available on Kobo, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble and Apple.
Nice. Okay.
So that one. So that's all that. So actually,
keep an eye out.
Amazon, Craig Martelle. There's one of me. Thank goodness I don't have a common name. So it makes it easy. So when I publish it, it's there. I don't have to. Oh my God! Some of the things some people have to do on Goodreads. I do anthologies on occasion, and one of the authors, he's like, "Oh, you have to put my first name, 5 spaces, and then my last name." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "There's 4 other guys with my name, and I'm the 5 space guy." I'm like, holy cow. How in the hell does that work?
Whoa.
He's like, well, you put 5 spaces in. I'm like, oh my God. So you publish the anthology, then you have to specifically go over to Goodreads and change the name and add 5 spaces. So thank God there's only one Craig Martelle, and I don't have to worry about 5 spaces.
That's one thing I tell them. Like, when you're looking for your pen name, people, if you decide to use a pen name, make sure it's unique. Make sure you can get the .com, and that way you don't have to worry about all these things later, and that people can easily spell it.
That's right. Quick and easy to spell. Okay, yeah, Martelle, LLE kind of throws people for a loop, but because it's still unique enough, Amazon will auto-complete it for you, which that's when you know you've made it. When somebody starts typing your name and it auto-completes after MAR.
Yes.
I'm like, oh man.
That's when you know you've made it.
Well, I ran into somebody at the blood bank. So I'm giving blood. I have O negative and I'm CMV negative, which also means that I can donate to any baby, right? Newborns, they can take my blood. So it's a very unique. It's like 0.1% to 1% kind of blood, or 1% blood. And so I'm there, and she's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, you're an author." And she brings it up right there, and she goes, "Hey, look at that." She typed Craig space MAR, and she's like, "Oh, there it is." I'm like, "That is cool," because that was also the expression on her face said, "Yes, you are real." When Amazon autocompletes your name for you after 3 letters,
you're super legitimate.
You're legit.
You're legit. Yeah. So you guys, make sure to go check out Craig Martelle at his website if you like space opera, or even if you haven't tried space opera, but you're looking to find out what is the best genre ever. And then be sure to read or look up his book for how to be a successful indie author. In fact, I bought an extra copy of your book to do for giveaways, because I'm like, I'm going to keep buying this book and just give it away to people.
Good. Almost make me feel bad about raising a price this morning. I'm like, oh man, yeah. I got the paperbacks in, and they look really nice. The lined pages. James Baldwin does my formatting for me. He takes great care of me, and he's highly successful himself. Lit RPG. He just rocked a 5-figure month on his first book in Lit RPG. So James is killing it, but he does my formatting for me. He kind of babysits me.
That's good of him.
And he added in lined pages on the paperback version. So after each chapter, there's some lined pages to take notes or do whatever you want. And we did it on white paper, which is easier to write as well. So.
Oh, nice.
All good stuff.
Yeah,
for the
it's really good information. But really, if you're willing to take a little bit of time going into the 20 books to 50K and just searching up Craig's name.
Yeah. You can find almost everything I put in my book there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't need to make money. The main reason I wrote that book was to forestall questions that I get so I can have more time to write. My whole goal, I want to write books. I want to write science fiction, mainly that space opera thing, and sell them. I want to sell the stories and build the readership. I want 100,000 readers, not selfishly, but I want to tell stories to them. And that's mainly what I want to do. I don't want to take clients on to mentor. I don't want to do a self-publishing course. No, I just want to write science fiction because I enjoy that part of it so much. I do run conferences because it's great getting together. And it's one of those things they say, if it's not written, then you must write it. And I didn't see any of the indie conferences doing what we were able to do, that when Michael and I talked about, hey, 20 Books should have a conference because we're different. We're not for profit. So I run all the conferences at not for profit, except Bali. That's a little bit completely different. But Las Vegas, London, Edinburgh, those are all not for profit. So we make them as cheap as possible just to cover our costs. And our cost doesn't include my plane ticket, or so I pay a conference fee just like everybody else because it covers the cost of the food and stuff like that. The guest speakers, they all pay their own way because they're doing it as part of giving back. It's in no indie's job description to give back, but I believe it's the right thing to do, like you're doing with your podcast. You're taking time out of your day and your life to conduct these interviews to share with other people. You're not getting paid for a podcast. It's just there, but it helps everybody. So thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Thank you for giving a voice to the indies and making the indies feel comfortable. It is a really lonely profession, but you don't have to be alone.
Yeah. Okay. Craig, thank you so much. Like, really, thank you so much. And I'm going to say thank you again. But everybody, thank you so much for being here and listening. Be sure to check out Craig and all of his generosity and send him an appreciation or leave a review on one of his books. and
I like those.
Yeah. If you've appreciated this little conversation, you can leave a review on iTunes, hear from me, and go and leave a review on one of his books if you like it. Okay. Thank you so much, Craig. And thank you, everybody. Hugs and happy authoring.
Welcome to the Author Like a Boss podcast, the podcast for indie authors who want to improve their writing, up-level their marketing, make money with their books, and have fun doing it. Now, onto the show with your host, ALAB Barnard.